Hey everybody, welcome back to the Saturn Return Diaries podcast. My name is Court. I'm your host. Thanks for being back here again today. I'm really excited to dive into this episode. If you listened already, you'll have heard the intro a little bit, but um, I'm super stoked because this is very kismet how this happened. I don't even know how Marley found me, but somehow we did. And I've been listening to Marley's podcast for a while. I've been super open on the podcast about some of the stuff that's been going on in my life. And it's super funny because money has been the thing that like Saturn return has been teaching me so much responsibility around. So the fact that this is like it's so funny. I'm obviously going to link your podcast below. You can tell us about it after, but it's just so interesting how the universe works and how everything comes together. But yeah, I'm super excited about this to hear about your Saturn return, what's going on, and just your story and who you are as a person, because I think everyone has a valuable story. And especially with Saturn, there's so many changes and transitions that happen. So it's super helpful just to hear what other people are going through. So without further ado, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And for everyone listening, I definitely like dabble in astrology, but I am also like very much in the learning stages. So I'm really excited to talk to you kind of like what's going on, and then we can like connect the dots together.
Mm.
Um because like I told you earlier, like offline, I had a reading recently and I was like, whoa, like it's just crazy how, you know, it's like as much as we have free will and everything, it kind of is in the stars already. And so just to like in hindsight see what's already happened and see how it's like, oh yeah, that happened because that's happening and that's happening, and like connect the dots there. It's like it's crazy. But then also like I didn't really know what a Saturn return was until like 3 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And people go through their life not knowing what the fuck is going on. Sorry, I hope it's okay that I swear. But it's like,
Go for it.
and they're like 50 and they had this whole moment they didn't even know what was happening. So I think it's
Mm.
really important that you're shedding light on this so we can all kind of have this like almost like a support group for Saturn returns.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, that's super funny you said that because I am going to create that eventually.
Yes.
So, so that was just like a like a little foreshadow.
Foreshadow. Yeah.
Yeah, super well said. I also didn't really know that much about it. And then I don't know. I've always knew about astrology, but I obviously deepened my practice. And yeah, it's quite a big transition. And it's been such an honor to hear people's like experiences and what they go through. So thank you for being here.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I'm so excited. So let's chat. I always I always start the podcast off in like a very Aquarian way, I would say, because we could go into what you do and all these things, but I always like to start off with saying, who are you? Who is Marley? What do you like versus what do you do? So if you can answer
Mm.
that.
You know what's funny is like what I like is what I do, though. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I'm in a very fortunate place right now where what I would talk about at like I was actually at a baby shower on the weekend and I haven't been home for 3 years. And so I was like catching up with all my cousins and I was like business coaching one of them, like, oh my gosh, I feel really bad. I hope you don't think I'm like taking advantage of your time. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, this is what I love talking about. It's not like I'm just doing this. Of course, I'm doing this to like keep the lights on as well, but this is actually truly what I am passionate about and what lights me up. So what lights me up is inspiring others to have, do, and be whatever they desire.
Mm.
And the way I know that to be true is living a life of time, location, and financial freedom. So I believe like once you have those things, it gives you the space and truly the freedom to do whatever the fuck you want. And I know what it feels like to be I'm from Ontario, Canada, sitting at home, middle of winter. I really struggle in winters actually. Like I think it's called seasonal affectionate depression disorder or something. Like in the middle of winter, I get super depressed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just knew. I'm like, I know that if I was in Australia or in somewhere was, I wouldn't be depressed. I'm like, I don't know how to fix. I got the lamps, I got everything. It just none of it worked. And so I was really struggling, and I was like, I just want to be able to live from anywhere in the world. I really don't like being told what to do. I like doing things my own way. This is probably a Capricorn thing, right? I don't know. And I just desired this life of freedom so deeply. So I went and did it. And over the past 3 years, I've been figuring out, okay, how do I live this life online? A life of freedom, a life of to be, do, and have whatever I desire. And I'm at a point where that really is my reality. And now I get to teach others how to do the same. And that's what honestly lights me the F up. Like in my like I said, I'm home now for the first time in 3 years, and my mom's been like listening in on my calls, and she's like, wow, it just sounds like you're talking to a friend. And I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, this is just so, like you said, kismet of just
Mhm.
being in your purpose and being in alignment. And I believe we're all here to teach like an older version of ourselves.
Mm.
And so I'm really that person at parties talking about, okay, how can you make more passive income? And then it's like, oh, also like, how can you feel better and how can you manifest more money? Like, that is me at my core. I've always actually been this way, but I was the right person doing the wrong thing, right? Like I was working in corporate and I just never fit in. I actually would be, I remember you'll like this. I would be like, oh my God, guys, it's Mercury retrograde. Like, this is why everything's going wrong. And everyone's like, Mercury, what? Like, you're so weird. And I'm like, one day I will prove all you bitches wrong. And like, now I get to come back and be like, like you guys are all still here. Not really, but you know what I mean? It's like,
But
you
actually,
did believe me, but now
yeah,
the whole world.
yeah.
And so it's just, yeah, I feel very fortunate, but this is very like, it's like this is new, like I was definitely feeling like I was out of alignment for most of my life, and took the leap of becoming an entrepreneur and building this business. And now very fortunate to say, like, yeah, I am what I do.
Mm, I love it. I think it's so cool, and for everyone who's listening, like the next questions I'm going to ask you is going to make a lot of sense because um I sort of like to profile in different types of ways. So the way that you just described who you are and what lights you up is so beautiful. But then the next question is, what are your sun, moon, and rising? Which is
Okay, so my sun is Capricorn, my moon is Scorpio, and my rising is Leo.
which is so like for anyone who knows and has been listening to this podcast, when you are in alignment with who you are, it shows in your astrology. So you're aligned with your values, you're aligned with the things that light you up, and you're doing, and of course, we always have things to learn, but it's so interesting to hear you explain the things that you love that are connected to what you do because of this big three. So I guess my question to you is, and I know that you said that you're still learning, but within that big three, so like your Capricorn sun and your Leo rising and Scorpio moon, what do you think resonates most for you, just given what you know from that energy?
Right. So really interesting. Well, first off, I have to tell you something so weird. So my dad's son is Scorpio and my mom's son is Leo. Isn't that weird?
Mm.
When I first
Yeah.
discovered that, I was like, oh, that's how it works. Like, I become my parents. And then they're like, no, that's not how it works. I was like, whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah.
um, I definitely resonate most with being Capricorn, but that also could truly be just because I know the most about Capricorn. But I mean, I know you have my chart there, and like I have something like 8 planets in Capricorn. And so like I'm just Capricorn through and through. So I truly resonate with most of being Capricorn. And if I'm being honest, like it helps me understand myself more. Like even in my relationship, my partner's like, are you okay? Like, how can you like work this much? Like, how are you so driven? Like, how come every time you complete something, you're like on to the next thing, just like have us chill. And I'm like, I can't. And I never really and I almost made myself feel bad about that, right? I was like, why can't I slow down? Why, but then I just realized I'm like, it's me. That's just who I am. And he's Gemini and he has Pisces in his chart, so he's very like flowing and just like goes with the flow. And I'm like, we're going this way and like come take it or leave it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so to be able to understand that, and almost like even in a relationship, like understand, okay, like you're just not that way, and you're not ever going to be that way, and that's okay. And I'm this way, and this is what makes me me, and that's beautiful. You know, it's equally beautiful, and it's like just accepting that, but just also understanding that has also been very just healing and empowering at the same time of, okay, well, let's freaking embrace it. Like I'm like literally a mountain goat, like climbing all the
Yeah.
mountains and just go, like embracing that. And I think it's also important understanding that as well, is like, don't compare yourself to anyone, because we're
Mm,
literally built differently. We're like energetically completely different humans. And I
totally.
think being a business coach, obviously a lot of my clients, well, sorry, I shouldn't say obviously, but like ideally a lot of my clients are like looking up to me, right? And like
Mhm.
modeling what I do. But a lot of them are, I love human design as well. Not all of them are like manifesting generator Capricorns. Like we're just built differently.
Mhm.
And so I just think it's really important when you, especially in business, it's like not to compare, because it's like cars. Every car has a different engine, and it's just run differently. This is such a long tangent of like
I love it.
like Capricorn, but
It's you're really
um
nailing the head on the Capricorn energy right now. It's like, yes, this is it.
I always go on tangents, so yeah, this is gonna happen a lot. But back to what I was saying, just I guess I was just proving my point. I don't know. I definitely resonate most with Capricorn, but I want to learn more about like that Leo side and that Scorpio side. Because I understand, and I've done a bit of research on it, but it's like I just feel so content with just like knowing about Capricorn that I'm like, okay, I'm Capricorn, moving on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense. You have a stellium in your sixth house of Capricorn. And so there are a lot of planets there. And we'll talk more about this. We'll dive more in because there's quite a few that I actually am really interested in for you that I want to kind of dissect a little bit. But the Leo rising to me is super interesting. Now, everyone knows that I'm obsessed with Leo energy. I'm like, I have a closeted, like, I know I shouldn't pick my faves, but like, I love
Yeah.
Leo energy. And on the rising sign, there's a part of a Leo rising that is meant to be seen. You're meant to be a leader in
Mm,
some capacity. And there are things that come with that on the rising sign because everything has a light and a dark, right? Like there's a shadow side to everything. And so
yes.
embracing your own confidence and being able to show up is really important for a Leo rising. And if you're not doing that and you're back behind the crowd, like it's not going to feel in alignment. So
Mm,
that's kind of like part of the Leo rising, and sort of being seen is a big, big piece there. And so there's so many other aspects, but that's a really good place to start. And then with your Scorpio moon, Scorpio, okay. Do you know the song by Ariana Grande that's like Seven Rings? Do you know that song?
can you sing it?
Okay. It's like, I got it. I want it. That's all I got.
Yes, yes. I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll have to look it up after, but that is very Capricorn Scorpio energy. So it's like Scorpio is like very driven as well, and it's like like to
Yeah.
build something from the ground up. So you're kind of describing a lot of the aspects there, really.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
It also goes like your moon in Scorpio also would go very deep, which would probably support you in terms of like helping your clients, right? Like you're able to go to the root of things. The subconscious work is really big with Scorpio. And you have that within like your natural feelings and abilities. So it's beautiful.
Wow. I just find it so cool when that stuff happens, when you can like backtrack and be like, oh, this is happening because of this. And I'm like mind blown.
Yeah. Astrology is so fun. Obviously, I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
Um, so you said that you're into human design as well. You're a big fan. What is your human design?
So I'm a manifesting generator.
Nice.
Um, and when I found out more about like I think it started to come into my radar like maybe like 3 years ago actually. And I looked up what I was like hearing it on podcast and
Mhm.
I was like, And then I started to dive deep into like what is a Manny Gen? Like what is it? And I was like, oh my God. Like I felt so understood
Mhm.
and it just explains so much of my life. So yeah, I'm also really into human design and I actually use it in my work a lot, to
Oh.
understand my clients and understand how they work and what makes them tick and like and also like how to sell, how to show up. It's like you can learn a lot of what works for you through human design.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I know there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are also really interested in human design. I know the bare minimum. I'm also a manifesting generator, 6'2". That's all I know. Yeah. But it is a lot of energy and how you just said it helps you feel seen. I definitely
Mm.
relate to that as well. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really great way to start to kind of get to know pieces of you. So you kind of alluded to it, but now you can tell us, what is it that you do in the world?
So I'm a money and business coach. I help people, like I said, create a life of time, location, and financial freedom.
Mhm.
So I work, one to one and in courses with my students to really build a business, but not just a business and any type of business, build a business that allows you to create a life of freedom. So if you want to move to Bali for 3 years, you can move to Bali for 3 years. Like, and you can do whatever lights you up and makes you feel good. But you know what? Like for some people, they just want freedom to be able to spend more time with their kids, or they want freedom so that they don't have to commute every day. My original one was that I didn't want winter anymore. Like for everyone, it's different, right? But my passion and my purpose, I believe, on this planet is to help people, show them first off that it's possible,
Mhm.
and then show them the way of like, hey, don't bang your head against the wall for 3 years and try to figure it all out. Like I figured it out for you, kind of like here's the way to do that. So that's been a really, that's my business. But at the on like more of like the real side of it is I really discovered that when I worked on my mindset and healing my negative beliefs, my whole business changed. And so my strategy and how I teach is really rooted in, yes, amazing strategy, but if you don't have the mindset that is going to allow you to call in the abundance and the freedom that you desire, it's not going to come in. You attract what you are. So if you don't, you're laughing,
I'm
if you
done.
don't have that belief system, it's like it's not going to come in. So it would be like having a wound and then like just like not and just like putting a band-aid over top with strategy. Whereas like the way I teach business is through like cleaning the wound, removing whatever's in there,
Mhm.
putting on some healing lotion, and then putting on a band-aid. And that's like it's kind of a weird example, but just to emulate that, if you don't learn business without strategy, without mindset,
Mhm.
you're gonna be like moving through mud. Whereas like if you get to do the mindset work while doing the strategy, I mean, it's like I call it Rainbow Road, like literally Mario Kart, like pew pew pew. Um, and so that's really what I do and what, yeah, like I said, like lights me up every single day.
Wow. I mean, the fact that you use that analogy of like the wound is such a Scorpio moon thing. Like literally going to the depths, cleaning it up and being like, how can we start fresh here? And yeah, I was laughing because it's so funny. Like I can just like I know some of my friends are gonna listen to this and they're gonna be like, wow, this is so on point in the fact that we're talking about this. Cause I kid you not, this is what my Saturn return has been about. Like literally mindset, cleaning out beliefs. Like it's just been wild. And as you said, growing a business, if you're you cannot operate in the same way that you did as an employee. Like there's so many changes that you have to go through on an internal level. It's massive. And I've also interviewed quite a few people who started businesses during their Saturn return, and it's been a massive theme of like everything going on up here changing like within your mind. So
Oh, yeah. Entrepreneurship is going to be the biggest personal development journey that you go on
mm,
because you are constantly in a mirror of like you have a belief, it's going to show up. And you
Mm,
are constantly getting tested everywhere you look, through clients, through, you know, freaking like just everything is going
yeah.
to test you. And I actually don't even, I just like, it's just such a different way of life. I would not change it for the world. It's my most like, it's the best thing I've ever done.
Mhm.
But wow, like I see my clients who like they are different people in 6 months. They're absolutely different people because okay, you learn how to like show up with a client and you learn how to like move through tests with clients or just in the situations in your business. And that gets reflected into your relationship or into with your,
Mm,
how you show up with your family. Like it's all so connected. And if you have like a core wound around being seen or like receiving or
yeah.
feeling worthy, like that shit is all coming up in your business. All of it. Like, don't
Oh
think you're
yeah.
hiding from any of that.
It's loud and clear. Does it come up? Like all the inner child stuff? Oh yeah, I see you.
Oh, honey.
Cool.
It's like, hey,
Wild.
what wound do we want to work on today? Stab, stab, stab. But it's like, so but like, I swear to you, you will just become the best version of you through entrepreneurship.
Mhm. Oh, this is such a good. That's so good. I love that. I'm gonna have to use that as a sound bite, I think, because the fact that like we're gonna talk about obviously your Saturn return now and sort of what's going on in this piece in your chart, but that stellium that you have in the sixth house, astrology, for all my astrology students out there, sixth house is health, wealth. That's the house of health and wealth.
Mm.
And you have a stellium, which I call big dick energy, in in that area of your chart. And it's like exaggerated because there's a lot of Capricorn there. And as you said, Capricorn is the goat. They're determined. They understand things take time. They're really good at strategy and not necessarily I would say organization, but it's more so like I can see the goal and I can figure out how to get there, even if it takes me a long time. And they're
Yes.
because they have that drive to go up the mountain. So it's really interesting because everything that you're kind of saying right now is you've learned that's innate in your chart, right? Like that's something that's innate to you. And now you're helping other people with that. And that is legitimately like that's what you're supposed to do here on earth, right? Like that's what you're supposed to do. It's like do your chart, like do the things that you love and help other people with them. That's a key.
100%. And I'm just like realizing, like, as you're talking, I'm like, people could save a lot of time trying to figure out their passion by just looking at their chart, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's probably similar in human design as well. I don't know enough about that, but yeah.
I'm just like realizing a new business idea, but keep
Boom, boom.
going.
I know. This is what happens. Capricorns, I love them. It's like, okay, new business here. Especially as a man
Yeah.
again. It's like, okay, new one, right?
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, so this actually is a great time to segue into more of like the story, I guess, behind some of the things that have been going on for you. So before we do that, I just want to tell everybody your Saturn. So you have your Saturn actually in the eighth house, and it is in the sign of Aquarius. So currently we are in Saturn in Aquarius. So we're going through this. You're going through your Saturn return right now. But what's interesting is your Saturn is actually at the sort of the final degree. It's at 27 degrees of Aquarius. And currently, Saturn is actually at 25 degrees of Aquarius and it's working its way backwards. So, what does that mean? Technically, you are in your Saturn return, but you haven't hit your peak Saturn return yet. So, yours is kind of coming. You're building to this energy of like it being at its peak because you have a later degree Saturn, which could show up in a couple of ways. I think you've probably been feeling it more so within the last couple months because it's kind of got this like dance going on over top of it. But even when Saturn exits Aquarius and moves into the beginning stages of Pisces, you'll probably still feel a little bit of that Saturn return as well, just because you have it at a later degree. So that's a lot of jargon, and I know a lot of people are like, "What does that mean?" You know what I mean? But Saturn in Aquarius is here to create some sort of new system within society, right? We're here to do things differently. And Marley, you have yours in the 8th house, which is connected to finances, money, and also other people's resources. So 8th house energy is very entrepreneurial. It's very entrepreneurial. So the fact that this is something that you've already been building for a while, Saturn conjunct your Saturn, which is what happens when it comes to its peak, can feel heavy. So there might be things that you need to release, or, things that come up as they all do when we're going through our Saturn return. But this actually could bring some form of new entity in your business or financial opportunities as you kind of go through this next phase of your Saturn return. So anyway, that's just a little peek in yours, but I kind of want to ask you, like, what was your 27th year like leading up to this Saturn moving into Aquarius in 2020? So think back to like 2019. What was going on for you then?
Well, it's like I remember like I said, I got a chart reading done, and he was like, "So what happened?" And then I was like, "Oh," he's like, "Oh," like he could literally pinpoint. It was just so crazy. Um, so at the beginning of 2019, um, is actually I don't know if you can tell, but can you tell like the date that my Saturn return started? Is that a thing?
Yes, it is. So basically, it depends on person to person. So this is a good tip for everybody who's listening. It totally depends. So typically, if we didn't have your chart, Saturn moved into Aquarius it was like December 20 something, 19th maybe, of 2020. And so that is when the beginning started, except it was really far away. It was at 0 degrees. Um, and yours is at 27 degrees. So you've been building to your Saturn since December of 2020.
Okay.
And you're about to hit your peak, like within the next, like, yeah, at the end of this year, it'll be like on your Saturn.
I'm scared. So okay, so at the end of 2020, I was so for those of you who don't know, I started my first business,
Mhm.
and the business that kind of got me, out of Canada was called Rose Designs. And I design logos, I design websites, and I created location freedom and financial freedom. But what I didn't have was time freedom because I built a business with me in it. And I never expected to have another employee. I never expected for it to grow the way it did. I literally just thought, like, okay, I'll just do this on the side and travel the world. And then it just became its own beast.
Mhm.
And so, which I'm super grateful for. But by the end of 2020, I literally was like miserable. I
Mhm.
was crying most days actually. And I was just like, I I was like, I didn't start a business to be a slave to my business. I was working 14 hours a day. I could never if I took a time off, everything would pause.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is the worst. I totally did this the wrong way. And like we had 40 clients at all times, 40 website clients. It was just insanity. And that's also probably my Capricorn of like just saying yes to everything and figure it out later, right? And then it just went off balance, and I was like, okay, this is way too much. So by the end of 2020, I was completely miserable,
Mhm.
and I felt like I just honestly ran like 12 marathons. And going into 2021, I was like, I can't do that again. I'm miserable. And I was just thinking, just like something has to change.
Mhm.
And so I had always, like I kind of alluded to earlier in this conversation, like I always have been obsessed with talking about business, entrepreneurship. I even started my podcast. I was building websites and designs, and it was called Rose Designs, and my podcast was the Rose Radio Show. But I never talked about websites. Like I was like, here's how to manifest, living abroad. Here's how to feel good. Like I was just obsessed with like mindset and business. So at the end of 2020, I was like desiring so deeply to make that my full-time job. But my business was so like it was just like I was making more money than I ever thought was possible. And everyone that I talked to was like, "Are you insane? Like you can't just like let go of that business. It's like what like that's would be insane." And I knew that would be insane, but I just had this calling in my heart of just like, I know I'm meant for more. And my story isn't website design. Like it's website design's amazing. A lot of my clients are in website design and that's their thing. It just like wasn't my sole purpose, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And I remember one day I was in the shower and I was so resistant to being a coach. I was just like, I don't want to be a coach, I I just was resisting. I was pushing it away. And I like tried to launch a course. I think it was what was it called? It was something like the magnetic business course. And oh my god, it flopped so hard. Like it no like one person signed up and I was just like, okay, well, I'm not meant to be a business coach then. And then but in hindsight, I had no idea what I was doing. And I was in the shower one day and I was just like, I have all my good ideas in the shower. And
Yeah.
it was just like a ping of like, it's just like this like feeling of like, okay, I'm meant to be a business coach actually. And I just thought about it differently. I was like, I can help people one to one. I can choose who I work with. I can just be really specific on like the type of person I want to work with. And then I was like, I literally like ran out of the shower naked, I think, just being to my boyfriend, like, I'm gonna be a business coach. It just like all came at once. And I was like, yes, like this is what I've
Wow.
been waiting for. And then like this is how I pivot. And like I'm like, I can it was just like boom, it just like came.
Yeah.
And then I kid you not, 5 minutes later, I was like freaking out. I checked my phone and one of my like employees at my business messaged me. She's like, Marley, I know this is like really weird and I know I work for you. So this is probably like totally offside and you can tell me no. But she's like, I really want to work with someone to not only help me with business, but like manifestation. And because that was like my idea. I was like, oh, I can talk about business and manifestation. I can do both. And I was like, boom, done. And
Wow.
she's like, you always talk about expanders. And she's like, bless her, but she was like, you're my ultimate expander. And you always say like work from with people who are doing what you want to do. And she's like, I want to do what you're doing. Like I see how
Yeah.
you're running, I see the success in the business. Like teach me how. And I was like, okay, well, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is.
Confirmation.
Yeah. Like, thank you,
Confirmation.
universe. Thank you so much. So basically right there, I was like, oh hell yeah. So then I started my coaching business and fortunately that first month I was like, okay, if I get like 3 clients I will quit Rose Designs. And then I got 10 and I was like, holy fuck. Okay, so then the coaching sold out, but then still I had a hard time letting go of Rose Designs just because it was and
It's
then
a
I was telling
baby.
myself, oh,
Yeah.
well, I'll outsource everything and blah, blah, blah. I was listening to everyone else but my intuition. And my intuition was just like, let it go. I knew I just wanted to let it go, even though, yeah, I know it doesn't sound like the best financial decision, but I never make decision based off logic. Like, and that has never actually served me. The
Mhm.
best decisions I make are like from my intuition. That's the Manny Gen, like following the sacral energy of just like, when you know. And if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So, anyways, I keep learning this lesson. I'm really trying to listen to it, but it's like the universe always tests me with this. Like, I'll know the answer and then I'll still do something else. And then it just like never works out. And I always come back. I'm like, oh shit, why don't I keep listening to myself?
Mhm.
So learn that the hard way. And then, at the beginning of 20, so we're now at like 2021, um, has just been a year, the craziest year. Like I weirdly had a lot of like a lot of friend breakups.
Okay.
Um and two in particular, and just for like obviously like confidentiality and like privacy for them, I'm not going to share their names or anything, but
Yeah.
like two one was like, oh, okay, this is a good thing. Like I actually was like, oh, this is the universe like, oh, one of my clients said this yesterday, whereas like the universe hears conversations that you don't, so it'll do things that you might not understand.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah. And I was like, oh shit. Like I was like, wow, okay, yeah. So I believe that that thing we got separated because I feel that the universe heard things that like I couldn't hear, and the universe was doing me a solid. And I was like, okay, thank you. The next one is like actually really more upsetting to me, and I still don't fully understand it. But I guess the universe was hearing some conversations that I couldn't hear as well, which I think it just allows for such deep healing in those things that you don't understand. Like she was talking about being ghosted, and I was like, those things where you don't understand being ghosted, and then it's like, but just like this mantra allows you just like kind of move through that just with such more grace and understanding. Um, and so that's been a big one of last year. I was like, I've never really gone through a friendship breakup, and I had two last year, and I was like, whoa.
Mhm.
Um, but that's like again, I've been doing a lot of healing on that and like understanding like why that happened. And then a lot around like home. Like I don't know if that like makes sense in my chart, but so I'm obviously a nomad. Sure you can actually I don't even like that word, but I
Yeah, what do you
desire,
call? Yeah, what do you call it?
yeah, I desire like change. I love change. I love and hate change actually. Like I love newness. I love excitement. I love like there always being something new. But I'm actually starting to actually look at that in a different way of like, is that actually just me creating chaos in my life because I grew up in chaos and now I don't know a life without chaos?
Mhm.
Like my childhood was just absolute chaos.
Mhm.
And so now in my like adult years, am I like just creating chaos? Like literally right when everything's perfect, I'm like, okay, let's shake shit up and
Oh my
like
God.
let's like throw in a new thing. And I'm like,
Relatable.
wait. Yeah, I'm like, wait, why am I doing that? So that's been something I've been realizing over the past year. But um I discovered that I do want to make Bali home. So my biggest manifestation came true last year, which was investing in a villa in Bali,
Mhm.
which has been so fucking cool because that's been on my vision board for like 3 years.
That's
And
literally how I said the eighth house. The eighth house is investments. Like
there
that's
you
where your
go.
Saturn is. It's wild.
Yeah, so I my biggest investment was investing in that villa, um which was, yeah, a dream come true. Like again, that's been on my vision board like I said for like 3 years. So the fact that it came true is actually still something that I'm like, do you know when your brain just can't compute some things?
Yeah.
And I'm still like, yeah, I own a villa. Like it's kind of like weird to even say.
Mhm.
So that's been super cool. So now coming to like I guess the peak, um a lot of things are a lot of things are changing. Like I think I'm selling my villa now.
Mhm.
I'm, on a break with my partner, with my boyfriend,
Mhm.
and it's just like I feel, again, I don't I guess it's Saturn energy, but it's also like this like feeling of like, okay, let's like change everything.
Mhm.
I constantly have this pattern of like, okay, I finally have everything that I want, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's shake it up again. It's like I
Yeah.
get bored in contentment, which is a really fucked up thing. But I think it's honestly because of that chaotic energy, or maybe it's something in my like astrology.
Mhm.
um, so I think right now at the peak of it, it's very much like, what do I really want? Like
Mm.
like what do I really want, and what does that really look like? And I thought it was one thing, and now once I've had that, it's like, okay, I have that. Is this contentment? Is this it? And maybe thinking, okay, something that I thought I wanted for so long, is that actually it? Does that make sense, or is that like
No,
super vague?
totally makes sense. And I think that
Okay.
like, you just described the build up towards a Saturn return really well, actually, because yeah, all these things have been built. Like, you started your own business, and that's huge as well, right? But even how you had brought in and mentioned that the connection to friendships changing. Saturn moving through your seventh house is partnerships, is also part of that energy. It's like, what do I value, right? Saturn in
Mm.
Aquarius wants more freedom. So naturally you have, all of us who have Saturn in Aquarius, we want more freedom in our lives. So naturally when Saturn comes into Aquarius, that's going to be a theme, right? How can we create more freedom for ourselves in our lives? That's going to show up in the areas that are close to our Saturn. And for you, you had it moving through your seventh house of partnerships and friendships, right? Like one on one connections. So, yeah, Saturn can make things challenging and hard and asks us to mature and set boundaries
Mm.
and it does create resistance. And the reason why is I always use this example, but it's like, if you're using resistance bands at the gym, you're going to grow a booty, like you're going to, if you have some
Mm.
resistance, you're going to get stronger. And that's what Saturn does. So it did that in your zone of partnerships. And then as it's moving like closer to the eighth house, yes, eighth house is about investments, finances, money. It's also about things that are a little bit more unseen. So the shadow sides. So how you just said, like getting up to the peak, it's like if you were climbing a mountain and you're on this journey, right? And then you're getting up to the peak of your Saturn, and it's like, let me look back and be like, what do I actually want here? Like, who am I?
Yeah.
That's what that is. And so then rethinking and being like, is this a relationship I want? Who are the friends that I'm aligned with? And is this the business I want? Where do I want to live? Like all of those like existential questions are very Saturn
Yes.
return.
This is what's happening. And I'm like, what? And wait, but can we just talk about the most ironic thing?
Mhm.
Why is it that like Saturn return is what makes you question everything, like, and like maybe make you want to move, like relocate, find new friends. But then ironically in society, the 30s is like when you should be settling down and like getting married, having babies. Like what kind of
Oh
fucked
yeah.
up thing is that?
Well, because we're Saturn in Aquarius. We're doing it differently. Like all of that generation that was like Saturn in, I don't know, Taurus or Saturn in Virgo, like our parents, Saturn in Libra, entirely different value system.
Right.
So we are like, actually, no, what do I want as an individual? And how can I show up in the collective and support people and make a change? Like, there's no shocker to everybody that the last 2 years has been quite wildly life changing for every single person. And it's like, that's the change in the world. Like, Saturn and Aquarius, the people who have Saturn and Aquarius, we're here to change the path forward. Mhm.
So groundbreaking. And so yeah, so basically I'm at this point of my life, if I'm being honest, like I haven't even really shared this anywhere, but so
Mhm.
you're getting it here first. But I'm really just at this point where I'm like just questioning what I do want. And I also think like allowing myself to just really be like I can have it all. And not in a way of like I don't want anyone to think that I'm gonna say the word greedy, but I hate that word. But like not in a way of like, oh, I can have it all. Like not think like not in a selfish way, but like truly in an energetic way of like not playing small and not settling and not just like, yeah, it's really just like settling with, okay, I have this and everything's good, but is everything great? Like I want everything in my life. I do not settle. And so if something isn't 100% a fuck yes, then it's a fuck no. And so I think right now the hell no's are just kind of following away. So I'm like, I think on the other end of this, I hope is that everything is just going to be a hell yes. And whether or not I know it or not is like the hell knows. Like I just have to trust that what's happening right now is that the hell knows are just like leaving my life so it can make room for the hell yeses. And that's what I'm going with. I mean, it's a wild ride, but you have to just sit back and like get on the you just have to hop on or hop off and it's like and just trust. And you know, so many things in my life, pre Saturn return, in Saturn return, it's like it's hard to understand. It's really hard in the moment to understand, but I've never looked back and been like, I mean, there's been some big things in my life that have been really hard to understand, but majority of the time it's like, oh, that had to happen, right? And life happens for you, not to you. And understanding that and just like trusting, because like a lot of like really life altering things have happened and I've had to make a lot of big decisions
Mhm.
and it's scary. But knowing that when you make big decisions, the universe always rewards you tenfold,
Mm.
it's like you just gotta go for the shit that feels good because even though it's scary and even though you can't figure out how it's gonna work out, it always works out. Even if it's not the way you thought it was, it always works out.
Yeah, there's so much medicine in that like whole statement that you just said. So good. It's so true. And I think, like, do you feel like you've been a lot of the hell no's have been there's been like a lot of tests around the hell no's recently?
Yes.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
yes. And you know that thing is like, well, how bad do you really want it? Or
Mm,
how bad? So, like, I'll just use an example of one of my clients. We talk a lot about tests, and especially in business.
yeah.
And, a lot of my clients are transitioning out of jobs. Like we're moving them from 9 to 5 to, their own business.
Mhm,
But I really like to teach like bridge jobs as well.
mhm,
If your current role is just absolutely sucking you and you don't even have time or energy for that, for your business, then it's like, is there an in-between job that it's like part-time or whatever. So one of my clients in Freedom Club was transitioning out of her full-time thing that was completely draining her. And right before she left, she got a promotion. And
wow.
it was like, shit. It was like, and I was like, okay, that is an absolute test of like, how badly do you want freedom? And she turned it down. The minute she turned it down, she manifested this part-time VA job that paid her the exact same as the full-time job, but was part-time. And now her business is taking off. And I know that's not this story about me, but it's just like it was just like very timely that that happened. But it's
Mm,
like stuff like that's happening to me all the time, where it's like, oh, you want this, but here's this, the shiny
mhm.
thing. And
Yeah.
it's just like, and I keep getting like distracted by the shiny thing. And I just need to practice what I preach, which is like, fuck the shiny, like
Yeah.
that thing needs to go away. And don't let that distract you and just focus on where you're going. Because
Yeah.
that's what will get you to, where you're meant to be. These shiny objects are just testing you how
Yes.
bad you really want the big thing.
Oh my God. That has been happening so much. It's such a Saturn return thing. Like, I have Saturn moving through my 12th house, which is all about endings and a lot of mental health stuff within that kind of space as well, and surrender. And it's really
Oh,
freaking hard to learn the surrender word when you're like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm like saying goodbye. I'm like letting go to all these things. And it's like test, test, test. But also at the same time, like obviously when you're going through your Saturn return, you're becoming a new person. Like you're the same person, but you're like basically moving into this like cosmic adulthood of change, right? And so it's just so all of that was so good. And obviously, like, you shared with us the fact that you have this business, but you're still learning these lessons, which I think is very valuable.
oh, like I think Jeff Bezos is still learning these lessons. You know what I mean? Like I don't think
Totally.
you just stop. Like if you stop, you're not on planet, like you're not in Earth school anymore.
No.
And I've obviously like I've come a long way, but at every new level is there's a new lesson. It's like you think that once you get to this goal, everything is gonna be great, or you get to this goal and all your problems are gonna go away. It doesn't actually work that way. Unfortunately, I always think, oh, like once I start making this a month, then I'm gonna feel happier, or I'm gonna, it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
Mm,
Your money problems go away and you can, you have more financial flexibility, but there's still the same belief systems. Typically, obviously, we move a lot of them, and that's why you make more. But it's like, then you uncover new things of like, oh, do I feel worthy of this now? And then it's like,
mm,
it's Earth School.
yeah.
Like, I think we're here to learn all those things, and teach others how to move through them easier.
Mm, yes. Ease is something I've been calling in. So I really like that you said that. Yeah, it's all so good. I'm really excited to hear in terms of like how the next part of your Saturn return goes and sort of I guess what comes from it. I hope you decide to make a podcast maybe after on your own platform. Even you can always come back and share with us, but something that kind of comes through for you or sharing with us in terms of the transition because I think it's super cool because I haven't had many people on the podcast other than myself who have been going through a Saturn return. And there's a lot of people right now who have been going through it and feeling it. And I think that it's just very timely. So I just want to say thank you because I think it's very helpful.
Thank you. Can you tell me when it's over?
Don't tell me what it's done. I know, right? So good news is next year in I think it's early spring. Saturn is going to move into Pisces, which will be sort of it'll be out of a Saturn in Aquarius. People who have their Saturn at late degree of Aquarius, like you have it at 27 degrees, you might feel a little bit of it. There might be some like stuff to shake out. But next year, Saturn moves into Pisces, so it's completely new energy. Yeah.
Okay. A couple months like a year left.
Yeah, I would give yourself a year because you're kind of at the point of like, again, that peak. When Saturn reaches the peak, what I'm saying with that is it's like sometimes I can feel like there's like a weight on your back, like you're backpacking and you have all this stuff and you got to be like, hey, like, what am I taking with me on the next leg of this journey? And I always share this because someone else I interviewed also has a business. She's amazing. She said, what am I bringing with me post Saturn return and what is staying behind? And I've never forgot that because I'm like, that's so good. Like, including the beliefs, including the physical stuff, like, what is not coming? Because I'm moving into a new area of life that, like, thank you, past self, for bringing this, but like, what's ahead, you know?
It's like the ultimate New Year's
Yeah.
resolution.
Oh my God. Yes. I really want to have a retreat somewhere for Saturn returns and like imagine like a space for people to like come near the end of their Saturn return and be like, just let everything go and talk about what they've been through and connect with one another. That's like my dream.
Oh my gosh, you need to do that. I'm coming. Like truly a support group.
Yeah,
Like
actually, like, dude, you know,
Saturn Return Anonymous.
oh my God, I love this name. I actually need to, it's too good. You have like nice food. You can cry. We can do yoga, have Reiki, talk about astrology, human design, like just have a party, like, charcuterie. Like, it's a good time.
I love how it was like cry, and then it was like all
Yeah,
yeah,
all the things.
100%.
One day it's happening. I know it is. Post my Saturn return. Okay. Let me just
Yeah.
get it first.
You need to get the fuck out first.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, all right. So I want to be mindful of the time here. I want to wrap things up, but just want to say thank you for sharing first and foremost, because obviously this is so great and I know many people are going to love it. But where can people find you? Share a little bit about what you're doing. And yeah, anything you feel called to share, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun and you're such an amazing host. So thank you. So you can find me at Marley Rose Harris on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I'm dabbling in TikTok right now, I have to say. It's pretty fun. Also Marley Rose Harris. My website is marleyrose.ca and my podcast is the Money Mindset Manifestation podcast.
So good. I literally was just listening to the hypnosis before.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I didn't get the whole way through because I fell asleep. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's good.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. You're supposed to fall asleep.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I love your podcast. I've been listening to it for a while, and I've told so many. Literally, it's like beating. I swear, just like done with the lessons, but I know they're always going to be there. But it's literally like my deservingness, self-worth belief has been like boom, boom, boom. So your podcast has been very helpful to say the least.
Okay, thank you so much. That means
Yeah.
so much to me.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. So I will link everything below as always. But thank you everybody for listening. 10/10 recommend the podcast, obviously. And yeah, we'll see you in the next Saturn Return Diaries. And as I always say, don't forget, Saturn is always listening.
Thanks, babe.